It's just what we do here. We predict things, and we're usually always normally right. But anyway, I'm predicting that Loki is going to basically take the seat of He Who Remains. Next episode. It's going to end that way. I feel like it ends with Loki on the throne. I'm going to make even a wild prediction here. Mm-hmm. I believe that we'll see Loki in his iconic green horns and that whole costume at the end of the episode.
That would be hot. That could work.
Maybe I'll be right here. Maybe I'll be wrong. But that's the prediction. Loki sitting on the throne at the end of time when next episode ends. Welcome to another episode of Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian.
Good morning. Good morning.
What's up, dude? How we doing?
Another beautiful day in New England.
It is,
I'm feeling good.
It is about what? Almost 50 out there this morning?
Yeah.
Nice and crisp.
Nice short weather, short shirt, short pants. We good.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. So, and we got another action-packed show for you. We got some fun stuff, dude. We're getting to the end of Loki.
Yep.
Right, we watched, that was episode 5 last week. We got some news about episode 6, and then we're going to do our deep dive later. You got a hidden gem, as always. And then I got some agree to disagree to throw at you.
All right, let's
Last
do it.
week you went 10 for 10 and agreed. I'll tell you this, the universe did not, though. We get some, there's some interesting takes on us,
okay.
Some of them said that we're all, really high, so we don't know what we're talking about. It's like, I don't know about that. Some people say we just make shit up just for their responses. I don't know about that. They go, these are some interesting takes. Now, at the end of the day, everything that you hear today will be our takes. Right? We're not influenced by anyone else.
Yep.
We're not going to agree with most of y'all out there. And we're not doing, we don't disagree just to disagree.
Right.
It's just that we don't see it like everybody else.
Exactly.
And I think that's what sets us apart, Adrian. Only Comics.
Well, not only do we not see it like everyone else, we necessarily don't see it like each other.
Exactly.
Which is like the quick fire questions. Last week was 10 for 10, but other weeks it was not 10 for 10. So we don't always agree.
Like, you don't agree that when I say that The Matrix is overrated. Now,
I believe the franchise is very overrated, but
not the first movie.
The first one, excellent movie.
And one thing that I got you to agree, we also change our stance sometimes, and you brought this in as, I don't know if I'd call this a gift, Adrian, because I'm just going to leave it here. But we talked about this last week, and I said candy corn should be discontinued.
Yep.
And you agreed.
Yep, I did.
Reluctantly, kind of. But you got you got a little chest, a safe case here, just in case it is, right?
Oh, I mean, first of all, it's funny.
Yeah,
because I know you're not going to eat it.
No,
and I know you probably,
look at it.
I know you probably won't even take it home. So obviously you're not. So it's just funny.
Yep, it is. But like every week, we start off this show with our, it was my favorite segment until we started adding all these other segments. But newsflash, buddy. Because that is, as I have told you guys in the past, certain people, Adrian, certain people, when they're challenged, when they're upset, when they're feeling a little insecure, they use this phrase. They say, newsflash, buddy. Right. And then they're going to hit you. They're going to hit you with some shit after that.
Yep.
Like, it's about to go down. So what we do here is we review the news, and then sometimes, most of the time, we name a buster, as we call it here on Only Comics, Adrian. And a buster is someone who's for lack of better words, they're just fucking up.
Right.
They're not doing the right thing. Right. They're pissing me off. They're pissing you off. And so anyways, we're going to get into the news this week. So maybe there'll be would you like to make a prediction, Adrian? Do you think we'll find a buster this week?
I'm not sure. Okay. Let's just ride the
You're on the
wave.
Fence about it?
Yeah. Let's see where it goes.
All right. Let's see. Marvel. Marvel's always in the news here. Right. I mean, obviously, we're a comic podcast. Now, we will tell you, though, before you go on this ride with us, we're not experts.
Right.
Not at all. So we may say some shit, and you'll be like, that's not true. That was in this episode, and so, and you're probably right, actually. But we just happen to have the studio and the show, so guess what? You had to listen to us. All right, so Marvel, now we've talked a lot about Jonathan Majors, Kang, this next multiversal phase that, if you asked me 6 months ago, I'd say I don't really know where it's going. If you asked me today, I'd say I don't really know where it's going. But I think we know a little bit more. I think with Loki, I think we're starting to see more of this direction. And honestly, with the Marvels, Adrian, the closer we get to this movie, the more I think I'm excited about seeing it. As crazy as that sounds,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I think it may be an important film in this whole series. So, but we've talked about Jonathan Majors playing Kang, which I think, all the different variants I've seen him play so far, I think he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's got some legal issues. I don't know. I'm not a judge, jury, lawyer. I don't know who's guilty, who's not. Sounds like a lot of, as the older folks used to say, Adrian, a lot of shenanigans going on there. It really sounds like that. Like, he say, she say, this happened, maybe it didn't. I don't know. But what I do know is if you're running the Marvel MCU cinematic universe and you have a lot riding on it, a certain actor, you probably don't want it to be on someone who's got a lot of legal issues.
Right.
Like Ezra Miller, for example.
Well, there's legal issues, and then there's like, Ezra Miller is like a whole different, thing. Who really doesn't have legal issues?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know, we don't know what the extent of everything is, but legal issues isn't a reason. I think they're shaking in their confidence in him. But I think even if they bring in whoever they think is going to replace him, it's not just the character Kang.
Yeah,
it's Jonathan's Major acting,
right? His
ability to pull off these characters and stuff that makes him so attractive. So I don't know if I don't know how it's going to work out, but having legal issues, especially if has he been found guilty of anything?
No, not yet. Nothing.
I don't see what the problem is.
No. So they've had a meeting, I guess, in Palm Springs. They had their annual retreat, okay, in September. We're just learning about this now. Marvel did. And the rumors coming out of this are the executives that one of the things they discussed there was how to handle Kang the Conqueror, the character, because of the ongoing legal situation, right? And I guess, and this is all rumor, but a source who's close to Marvel told Variety magazine that Marvel is truly fucked with the whole Kang angle. And they haven't had an opportunity to rewrite it until very recently because of the strike, right? But I don't see a path to how they move forward with him. So the rumor is that they did discuss replacing the Kang character with Doctor Doom.
Right.
Okay. So, and I'm with you. I don't think that these legal issues I don't think they warrant replacing Kang.
Right.
I really don't. To your point, has he, been found guilty? Now, would this change if, and I'm just throwing out hypothetical, we'll look at both sides. If they find out that he's completely innocent, right, then it's like no harm, no foul.
Right.
Now, what if they moved forward, though, and they found out that he was guilty of all charges? It'd be in a pretty screwed up situation.
Right.
So now, again, none of us here are legal experts, so who knows what they're going to find. The other interesting part, Adrian, is that Kang was not their original first choice to be the big bad, as they call it, for this phase. It was after they saw the dailies from Ant-Man 3, and or maybe it was Loki, but they saw some footage of him, and they were like, oh shit, this dude's legit, let's incorporate him more, and then they kind of shifted to him. So who knows what the original plan was. Now forget about all legal shit, right? Let's just go character for character. Is Doctor Doom strong enough to replace Kang and carry this multiversal phase as, a villain the level of a Thanos, in your opinion?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
However, again, it's not about the character, it's the actor portrayal.
Right.
And I believe that Marvel is going to be hard-pressed to find an actor that can replace Jonathan Majors' role play as Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is a badass. He fights anybody. He goes up against anybody. He has his own agenda. Like Batman with Gotham, Earth and humans are Doctor Doom's. His sole thing, his primary thing, is the protection of humans in his mind. And he'll go up against anybody, friend or foe, in order to achieve that success.
Yeah.
You know, he's gone up against Galactus. He's gone up against Silver. I mean, anybody. So definitely, I believe that the character has the ability to replace Kang. However, you know, the actor, they need a Jonathan Majors replacement,
right,
to play Dr. Doom, and I think that's going to be a challenge for him.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean it's like they kind of caught lightning in the bottle with this guy,
Right.
with Jonathan Majors, because prior to this he was in some movies, but I wouldn't say he was like an A-list star, right?
Right.
I mean, when he was in the Creed movie, Michael B. Jordan was a much bigger star than
Right.
Jonathan Majors at the time, right?
Yep.
But we've seen and we continue to see with Loki. I mean, season 2 didn't do Marvel any favors in that aspect, because now we got to see Jonathan Majors play Victor Timely, which I thought so far has done a phenomenal job of playing that character,
Right.
which is completely different from He Who Remains, which is completely different from the Kang we saw in, you know, Ant-Man. So, yeah, I agree. That part is going to be very challenging.
Right.
But I agree with you on both, though. I do Dr. Doom, and I know a lot more about him than I do, but you know, I was a Fantastic Four fan growing up, and you know, I know a little bit. Hence why you do the hidden gem and not me. But I agree. I think Doom's a definitely strong enough character. But yes, it would, you know, be very, very, very important who they cast as him.
Absolutely.
You know, there's somebody out there.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Who was it? Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
I mean, I really hadn't even heard of him before Black Panther. And when I heard that when I saw him play the role, but prior to that, I'm like, who is this clown, right?
Right.
And he just took that role and just went with it to the point where, I mean, at this point, he's pretty much irreplaceable.
Right.
You know, so for somebody to just drop in a Dr. Doom character without having a very strong Jonathan Majors replacement, I think is going to be, you know, it's going to be like the Black Panther 2 effect.
Yeah.
You know, you got this going in, everybody expect all this stuff, and it was just a shit bomb.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, good luck to him, but I don't know. But also, it's just a rumor. You know,
True.
they can discuss these things, and I think what media does sometimes is that they take these things, they sideline them, and they blow them up because they're controversial and they'll attract views. You know, we can sit and talk about any direction of anything, right? That doesn't mean that we're gonna act upon it,
Right.
You know, so obviously, you know, they should have a discussion about, well, what happens if this does happen, then do we replace him, and who do we replace him with?
Right.
You are going to have those discussions.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean that it's going to happen. So
yeah, and kind of where you're going is, if I was betting on this, I would assume that's where they're at. I would assume they had the discussion.
Sure.
And they probably have these now contingency plans. Hey, if this happens, do X, and if this happens, does, you know?
Absolutely.
Because listen, I don't care how long the legal issues go on. If he's not guilty, nobody cares.
Right. It would be irresponsible of them to not have those discussions.
Because if it's the latter, if they find out, you know, and again, this is just hypothetical. I don't think this is the case, but if they find out he's guilty on all charges and they uncover, you know, they uncover a bunch of other shit and they go, you know what, damn, we can't use this guy. They need to have something to shift to. So I agree with you. As someone running a business, it makes sense to have that conversation. Do I think that Dr. Doom character is a valid replacement if they can't go forward with Kang? 100%. But yes, definitely depends on who they cast. You know, and don't portray him like they did in the old Fantastic Four movies.
Right.
just like just give us the real Dr. Doom.
Right. It'll be interesting. It's interesting. When do we shift from the bad boy thing, like, you know, the bad boys of Hollywood? You know, when they can go out and do stuff. I'm not saying it was acceptable, but there seems to be a shift. It's like now, if you sneeze on somebody, you know, they want to break out the torches and burn you on sight. So I'm not sure what the extent of the Jonathan Majors legal thing is, but I mean, if he was guilty of those charges, then, you know, let him pay whatever penance he has to pay. But again, I mean, how bad is that whole legal situation?
Right.
So I'm not sure, because they brought out Robert Downey Jr. after all of his shit.
Yep.
I mean, they cast this clown as the Flash with all of his stuff going on.
Right.
So I mean, where do we draw the line, and who do we draw the line on? So.
And maybe part of it is maybe they learned from DC's mistake, because we've talked about that here. Is like, as much as Ezra Miller was in that film, I mean, there was a point where you wouldn't know it until you saw the movie.
Right.
I mean, your boy Michael Keaton's back just because they can't use Ezra Miller. Like, shit. Maybe that's the only reason they added him to the movie. They're like, you know what? Let's just have you. We can market you. You haven't done anything.
Right. When you're talking about a movie and you don't know, it's like, wait a minute, is it a Batman? Is it a Superman? Is it a? It's definitely not a Flash movie.
No.
You know, so I don't. Is it a Justice League spinoff? That's bad.
It is. Next up, Blade. You're a big Blade fan, right? OG Blade fan.
OG
Wesley
Blade.
Snipes, the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
The MCU talking about a reboot, right?
Uh-huh.
Blade's now be part of the MCU. We've seen there was a teaser at the end. You know, we were talking about the post-credit scenes last week.
Yep.
There was a post-credit scene at the end of some movie. I don't remember which one it was now, but we saw the blade, the actual sword or whatnot in this box. Mm-hmm. So it's been that's the extent of any tease or Easter egg I've seen in the MCU. And supposedly this script went through significant rewrites recently. But why they're in the news this week is there's a rumor about the budget. So, you know, we've talked a little bit about this here in the past. These movies with their budgets, I mean, you're talking a couple $100 million, and this is kind of why Marvel's like in this weird phase right now where some of the movies have been pretty good, but they're just not doing well at the box office.
Right.
No one's going out to see them except for like me, you, and the few hundred people that watch us here. But so. They've not been able to recoup a lot of their money. Like, a lot of these projects have not been profitable,
right?
Because whether it's a good movie or not, you know, we've seen this in Hollywood. Forget about just comics, where you got a movie that critically loved, you know, everyone loves it, fans love it, but didn't do well in the box office, so you don't see a follow up. You know, you don't because of, at the end of the day, it's still business, right? So they're kind of rethinking their strategy here with Blade. And the rumor is the budget's going to be less than $100 million, which for a comic book movie, I mean, now there were some other numbers in here. Ant-Man and the Wasp was $200 million,
right?
And we saw what CGI that fucking paid for. Holy shit! Like, could they give them like maybe an extra like, you know, $10 million and actually use real CGI? You know, Guardians 3. There you go. See, they gave them $250, and that looked a lot better. The Marvels. How about this? The Marvels is going to be the shortest movie in the MCU,
but cost the most.
Close to it. I would assume that Infinity War is probably more in those movies, but $273 million. I mean, the biggest budget of the recent films. Now, Blade, they're saying less than $100 million. Now, what else? This may sound crazy to you, Adrian. I'm going to say that's a good thing.
I completely agree.
Okay.
Because, so let's trim the fat. Let's get back to the basics of making movies. Instead of, one of the things that make Jonathan Majors, and not to keep, you know, looping us back to Jonathan Majors, one of the things that make Jonathan Majors acting so powerful is his ability to portray the characters, right? There's no CGI in him, in his performance, right? And that's the element that's missing in a lot of movies. They want to go to the CGI, this AI, this green screen shit. They're spending so much time and money on computer power that they're leaving out the actor portrayal part. So let's skip all of this stuff. When Wesley Snipes did did Blade, you know, there's CGI, there's, you know, stunts and all this other kind of stuff, but it was more actor portrayal as far as I'm aware of.
Right.
So let's trim out all this extra high budgeted fat, right? Get back to actor portrayal, and I think you'll have a better grounded movie.
Yeah.
So let's do less than, because if you got less money, you have to be more creative.
Right.
You don't have to be creative when you got as much money as you want.
Absolutely. And I agree for that exact reason. We've seen much better films on lower budgets.
Right.
The first Iron Man. You know what that budget was? $130 million.
Wow.
Yeah. Now
let's go back. Let's go back. Even not even related to comics. What are some of the two staple movies? I don't even know if you've ever seen them. Shawshank Redemption. No CGI, no AI. The Green Mile. No CGI except maybe the mouse.
Right.
But These are actor portrayal movies, which are, get rave reviews,
right?
Even to this day. So let's get back to the basics.
Shawshank Redemption budget $25 million.
Wow.
25.
Wow.
And we got $200 million films that absolutely look like shit.
Right.
Because they're rushing them, and you're right. I think they rely. Green Mile, $60 million.
Wow.
$60 million. Endgame, Infinity War, $400 million.
Wow.
Now, that's how you use that money properly, though.
Right. There was a lot going on in those movies. I mean, those are big, visually complex productions. So you needed that money for those movies.
Yeah, you're talking the culmination of 10, 15 years of storytelling. I get it. But these are like almost origin stories.
Right.
We don't need the origin story to have a $200-300 million budget.
Right.
So that is as much as I was just saying, I'm looking forward to the Marvels. The almost $300 million budget makes me nervous for such a B-level film.
Right. I mean, look at like Daredevil on Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't require a lot of stuff. Most of this stuff is having Super Chick fly around, in space and the glowing and all this other kind of crap.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
No.
Make a good storyline.
What's funny is She-Hulk kind of poked fun at that with the whole transformation. Like, oh, you want me to transform off camera? So we have to start because a lot of that shit's done just to inflate the budget, you know? Or we have the budget, might as well use it.
Right.
It's like the Zack Snyder, the Snyder cut. Mm-hmm. We got all this extra money. All right, take all those shots and let's just slow them down and add all these extra sound effects and do all. And it's cool, but after like the second or third time, like, all right, dude, I don't need to see you take a shit in slow motion.
Right. Yeah. At some point, so we've been oversaturated with all of this stuff. Guess what? Fast food doesn't work that well anymore.
Absolutely.
We're done with it.
Yep.
Let's move on. Let's actually get some good food.
Yeah.
Right. Give us some nice food to digest instead of this fast food, shit that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I'm with it, dude. I agree. It makes you think outside the box more. It makes you get more creative with how you shoot things, how you portray. I mean, Daredevil, dude. I mean, I know they're Marvel, but I'm pretty sure they shot that in James Gunn's garage. Right. It's dark,
right?
But it works.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have no light budget on that.
Right.
Show.
I mean, I don't know what Hell's Kitchen looks like normally, but I would imagine that it's a Gotham City level kind of existence. So.
Yep. But they did a lot with a little on those shows,
I'm curious about the actor Mahershala Ali.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know how old Snipes is or how he looks today, but I mean, I like Snipes as the original Blade.
Yeah.
And Ali looks as old as
he does.
Snipes.
I actually
supposedly
think he is as old as he was when he did
I mean, why not just bring Snipes back?
Yeah.
I mean, you're bringing all these other, crypt keepers back.
Right.
Just bring the original back.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he also they look similar, right? It's almost like that Henry Cavill and the kid who's going to play Superman now. It's like you get someone who looks that much like him.
Exactly.
Like, hey, whatever. All right. So I'm with it. I agree. I think it forces creativity, and I like the idea of some of these lower budget projects. Like, it's like everything can't be, the universe is about to end in every movie.
Right.
Like I like when it's done right.
Right.
Like in Loki right now. We'll get into it later, but essentially the whole universe, the whole multiverse is at risk right now of being destroyed. Like, but that doesn't mean we need to do the same thing in the next movie.
Right.
Like, let that, once Loki's done and whatever they do, let that chill.
Right.
And then let's do some grounded stories.
Exactly. So we've gone from, superpowered suits and all these abilities and stuff. They still can't even get the Hulk right.
Right.
To now we are the galactic stuff that's been with Guardians of the Galaxy. Ms. Marvel, that's played out.
Yep.
The multiverse stuff played out. Now let's get into multiverses plus timelines.
Right.
So what's the next thing? They keep bringing all this complex stuff. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
The 8th dimension, the 7th dimension. I mean, I mean, where's it going to end?
I know.
And the bad part about it is that the directors are going to expect us to consume whatever shit is coming out of their head, understand it and approve of it, and understand, think about what it is that they are trying to show. Instead of just showing us good content, they're going to leave it up to us to interpret what's in their mind. So it's going to get more complex. more over the top, and that's a concern for me.
Yeah, and the biggest point for me that I see or the biggest issue with that is the new fans. Right now, like you and I were good. Mm-hmm. We've been here since day one. We do the show, so we watch probably more shit than we even need to at times. Right. But, like, we're good. But even for me, sometimes I got to take a step back and go, all right, how does that connect to that?
Yeah, exactly.
And that? So as looking at someone brand new, if you were to jump into this MCU, on this train right now, I don't know where you start outside of the beginning.
Right.
And we're talking, as we confirmed a few weeks ago, 32 movies. Probably a dozen shows,
right?
Even more if you count the Netflix ones.
Yep.
I mean, dude, where do you start?
I mean, the only thing I can tell people to do is go back. Just go back in time. Go back in time and pick up something. Pick up some of the majors. I mean, don't focus on the majors, and by majors, I mean the major, superhero characters: Iron Man, Captain America, Black Panther. Those kind of things. But kind of splinter off a little bit. Mm-hmm. Find out what makes you, feel good about the comics, and then do a deep dive into that stuff. That's the only way you kind of gonna understand. Because if you just jump off into Loki today, because Loki today is a lot different than Loki when I started reading comics.
Yeah.
He right now, even with the Loki series, he's far and away from the jokester, the jester,
absolutely,
the magician, all that kind of stuff than when he even started. So, I mean, these characters are transforming, or they are being transformed by the directors into something that makes sense to them, and I think they're getting away from the characters altogether.
Yeah, because to your point about Loki, it is a lot different than the Loki in the comics now, but we've been on this journey with Loki. So it's also not confusing, and I think they've done a good job of transforming this character, right? But you'd have to know about the first Avengers movie. Mm-hmm. You'd have to know about the first Thor movie, mm-hmm. right? Like if you were to jump into just Loki right now, you'd have to know. You'd have to watch the Thor series, mm-hmm. first Avengers when he's attacking the Avengers. You'd have to watch Infinity War where he's killed, mm-hmm. right? And you'd have to watch Endgame where he gets the Tesseract and splits the timeline and becomes mm-hmm. this variant. But then in order to appreciate those films, like you can't just go watch Infinity War cold,
right?
There's all kinds of shit that leads into that.
Right. I think your point is that in order to appreciate, because I actually like, where he's going.
Yeah.
The character. But in order to appreciate this good guy, pseudo good guy Loki, mm-hmm. you got to understand that he was a bastard, mm-hmm. Back in the day. And he did some insane stuff.
Right.
I mean, to his family, to Thor.
Yep.
I mean, how do you constantly try to screw over your family? And this dude, he was like Sabretooth and Wolverine.
Yes.
Where Sabretooth would show up on Wolverine's birthday every year just to kick the shit out of him, and then he'll walk away or whatever. Yeah. It was like that kind of a thing, to the point where Thor was like, okay, at what point, I mean, I know you're here, I see you, and I know you're going to screw me, mm-hmm. so let me just kind of like be on edge, and I'll figure out how to counter whatever it is that you got going on. But I know you got something going on.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking about Thor Ragnarok when he's impersonating Odin.
Yep.
And he's basically running Asgard.
Right.
And they're doing the play, and he's sitting back eating grapes and shit. Like,
right.
Yeah, Loki was an asshole.
Right.
But even in that movie, we got to see, kind of that slightly good anti-hero, if you will, right, side of him, where he's working with his brother, mm-hmm. and they kind of like put all that shit in the past.
Right.
And then in Infinity War, I mean, he sacrifices himself for the Avengers, essentially, the same mm-hmm. group he's trying to kill, 8 years ago.
Right.
But to your point, if you've not seen all that, how do you? It'd be, it'd be like, Adrian. It'd be like watching Venom. Mm-hmm. And here's why. Venom in the comics. Venom's a savage.
Right.
Venom wants to kill Spider-Man.
Yep.
Venom, if the symbiote gets on you, you become somewhat of an asshole. Like it. And we watch this movie where Venom's he's a comedian.
Right.
I mean, shit.
Right. Relationship with the store owner and all this other kind of stuff.
Eddie Brock's half an idiot, and he's a comedian.
My God.
And now, if you were to watch Loki right now and not know all this background, you'd probably be like, what the hell is Loki doing? Mm-hmm. Why is he helping anyone?
Right.
He's Loki.
Right.
But we've seen 10 plus years.
Right.
This Venom, no one can explain to me why he's just like the jackass of the week every week.
I don't get it.
You know, it's like one of my favorite scenes in Guardian. Oh, he's the boss's nephew. Oh, you got an idiot? Yeah, no, I got one of those too. We got one too. His name's Venom.
Right.
you know. So anyway, moving on. Marvel, dude, they're all in the fucking news this week. They're reportedly this meeting, this whole. I guess they can't do anything on the low anymore.
Right.
They have this one meeting and all the news gets out. So another rumor stemming out of this meeting is that they're reportedly considering reassembling. Marvel's considering reassembling the original 6 Avengers actors for a new film. And before I even get in, I hate this. I hate this.
Yep.
Because you did all this shit. You built this up for years. We had to watch my man Robert Downey Jr. die, right? With Iron Man, Tony Stark.
Yep. Black Widow's
gone, sacrificed herself. Freaking Captain America's 137 years. Well, he was always on. He's 200 years old now. Yep. He's old as dog shit.
Right.
Like we had Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner has been neutered.
Yep.
Hulk's been neutered now. Chris Hemsworth, Thor is just turned into the Buster of the Year.
Right.
So we've gone through all this shit, and then like now I know maybe it's just a conversation, but why y'all even having this conversation?
I think that they realize. Well, they've been watching our show, and they realize that what we're saying is true. Mm-hmm. That people they don't have the comics that the movies that they're putting out now don't have the strength as the original ones did.
Yep.
So now they're trying to bring back or revamp. Like I saw an Iron Man trailer, and they brought Robert Downey Jr. back in some kind of way.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. I could go with it.
Yeah.
And it actually makes sense, but I don't think that they think that whatever they're gonna do in the short term is going to bring as much revenue as these original actors. So I think that's what it is.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of it, dude. I don't want to see them back.
No.
As much as they're great, but and I will say this: if they do bring them back, like I even get hesitant about them bringing Robert Downey Jr. back in as like an Iron Man variant. I don't like that either, just because of how important that death. I mean, it kind of shaped Spider-Man's new origin. Mm-hmm. I mean, that second Spider-Man film, a lot of it was about losing Iron Man, losing his mentor, and then he coming into it. So it's kind of like you now devalue all that, the whole shit. So I don't like this at all.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like it either. And my thing has always been, if they keep bringing back these, the OGs, then the new people don't have an opportunity to shine. If Jonathan Majors, he's not new on the scene. But somebody had to go away in order for him to come out, and he came out, and it's like, this dude is awesome.
Yeah,
in these character portrayals.
Right.
If you keep bringing back, all these old guys, all these old actors,
like
you're not going to give them
back.
An opportunity, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Thanos, Josh Brolin killed it as Thanos.
Right.
Now he's gone.
Yep.
He opened up the space for this Jonathan Majors character. Mm-hmm. But this would be the equivalent to, like, now if Jonathan Majors didn't do a great job and he kind of bonded with Kang, it would be like them going, all right, well, we're going to bring Thanos back.
Right.
Which I think Thanos was phenomenal, but I want to see something different.
Right. I'm not. Most of these characters, is comics, there's really no finality in a lot of these characters. They die seemingly, then they bring them back. So I'm expecting Wanda to show up again at some point. They never really die. They're eternal. Black Widow having to sacrifice herself. She's not strong enough a character for me to want her to come back.
Right.
But I wouldn't be surprised if she did some kind of way.
Yeah.
But my biggest thing is the actors portraying the characters. Mm-hmm. We understand that the character is going to be forever.
Yeah.
The actors are not. And I'm a big fan of the old moving out the way and let these young people come up because they have the opportunity to bring in so much more if given the chance. Mm-hmm. So, like, you would not have a, Jonathan Majors type person if somebody didn't get out the way.
Right. Yeah, no, so bad idea. So if we know y'all are watching, obviously.
Right.
Kevin Feige, bro, just
Right.
no, just don't do it. All right. Echo. So dude, this show is the show I keep forgetting about. This actually Echo could be a hidden gem because I don't think anyone knew who Echo was until like a few weeks ago.
I most certainly did. I had never heard of it. I didn't see. I haven't gone deep enough into Hawkeye to have seen her there. But this is brutal. I mean, I'm kind. It makes me feel like I'm watching a Daredevil preview.
Yes, and I think, and that's a great point. I think that's kind of where they're going with this, to be honest. So I did see Hawkeye, and we are now, Adrian. Last week was our Halloween episode. It was spooky in here, and now it's Christmas season, bro. I'm one of those. This is Christmas season, right?
We just Thanksgiving is like a speed bump these days. We don't even. It's like now. There you go.
I'm just gonna include it, dude. I'm not. People like you don't celebrate. Oh, I love me some Thanksgiving, dude. I didn't get this big with not loving holidays like Thanksgiving. Listen, my 260-pound ass is gonna eat half a turkey on Thanksgiving, but it is part of the Christmas season. Yeah, now, why I say that, Hawkeye, Adrian, is a phenomenal Christmas show. Okay. It's very Christmas. I mean, and this actually, I know. This is something you disagree with me about. You do not feel that Batman Returns is a Christmas movie per se, right? I got you on the Iron Man 3, even though I don't even know if you fully agree with that one. But Hawkeye, the plot is based around Christmas. He needs to get home for Christmas. So I'm going to rewatch this show because of this, because this comes out in January, Echo, right? But in the later episodes, not to spoil a whole lot for you, but Echo shows up. Wilson Fisk, Kingpin shows up, and we see some of this brutality in that show as well. Right. And obviously, if you've seen the Netflix show Daredevil, I mean, there's a lot of brutality in that. Right. And Kingpin, I mean, this guy Vincent D'Onofrio, if that's how you say it, dude, his portrayal of Wilson Fisk is iconic. He's one like, you talking about the Hugh Jackmans and Robert Downey Jr. I don't want to see anyone else play Fisk for a while. Wow. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. I haven't actually seen him play Fisk.
Well, Daredevil you did.
Actually, you're right on that. But, I mean, it was just like it's almost like they were just introducing him.
Yeah.
Because the last Fisk I saw was the guy that played in Green Mile, the black guy.
Oh, yeah, and who they kind of made like a joke. Like, his portrayal was weird.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it was, that was like the last one in my head.
Yeah.
But seeing this Echo preview, I mean, he pretty much nailed it. Yeah. He's got the size.
Yes.
He's got the mentality, the anger, and it looks like he takes Echo like kind of under his wing, right?
Yeah, it's like his adoptive daughter or whatever. Right. Yeah. Which they do explain. So in Hawkeye, they explain that. Reason why he's she's with him.
Okay. Actually. You're right, Hawkeye. From the first episode, it is around Christmas.
Yeah.
And actually, I got to catch up with a couple of my typical Christmas movies. Yep. It's a Wonderful Life, and things like that.
Home Alone.
Definitely not Home Alone.
Oh, man.
Definitely not Home. No. Okay. No. What's my other favorite? Anyway, I get to it. But
we'll do it on the show one week. Like, is that comics? I don't know, but it's gonna be. We're gonna talk about. We're gonna do a Christmas episode like we did with our Halloween episode.
Okay.
And one of our segments that week will be favorite Christmas movies.
Right.
And I will have Batman Returns.
Is Groundhog Day a Christmas movie?
Ooh. I'm gonna say no.
Again, we disagree.
Yeah, so you say there you go.
But those are my typical movies. But I think I'm gonna roll Hawkeye into it.
Yeah.
Because right now we kind of on a lull.
We are
for comic movies
next week.
Right. So it's like this is that time of the year where it's like everybody goes on a break, right?
Yep.
Including the movies that they come out with.
Yeah.
So it's time to sit down for some long weekends.
All right. Well, hey, when you do watch, let me know. We'll discuss a little bit here leading into Echo, because Echo drops. I believe it's in January. I don't know. January 10th. And this is another reason why I know they're listening to us, Adrian. I've said on this show that y'all need to stop making these Disney Plus shows as they need to stop making a long movie and cutting it up into shows.
Okay.
And if they're going to do that, they should release them all at once like Netflix does.
Right.
And lo and behold, Adrian, they listen to me. Echo's going to roll out. All episodes dropping at once on January 10th of 24.
Right.
So
right.
there you have it. We know what we're talking about.
Also, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I've said that. Well, don't correct me if I'm wrong about this because I know I said this. But
okay.
Comic book characters, they're not. I've always said that Disney was probably the wrong vehicle for a comic book kind of movie because a lot of these movies are not for kids.
Right.
They're not for kids. Now, this is the correct me if I'm wrong part. As the trailer was ending and they were dropping that all of these episodes are going to be available on January 10th, didn't they also give it a TVMA rating?
Ooh, I think so. I have to look back to check, but yeah, no, 100, you're right. It says right here, it will be TVMA.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's the way. That's where these things should be.
Yep.
That's way because they're obviously even in the commercials that is brutal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just interested to see what else is going to go on now.
And it felt like the Daredevil show.
Right. Absolutely.
Because we see one thing and I've only seen the first season. Mm-hmm. They pretty much show Fisk's origin. Fisk's origin.
Right.
In that show, and I mean, we see some brutality by him in that show.
Have you seen The Punisher?
I've not yet. I hear it's right up there.
It's up there, and this looks already like when they show the guy with the silencer, they like capped this guy right underneath his chin, like close range. I think this is going to be probably even more brutal than The Punisher.
So I'm actually, as much as I had no interest in this show up until I saw this trailer, I'm looking forward to it now.
Me too. I agree with you. Matter of fact, I'm going to go through all of the Hell's Kitchens characters, except Iron Man. Iron Fist. Iron Fist is kind of weak.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but who was it? Power Man, Daredevil, and Jessica Jones. I'm gonna go through all these in preparation for this release. But I'm also gonna roll in Hawkeye. He's not Hell's Kitchen, but it's related.
Yeah,
so only because of the Echo thing.
Yeah, you get to see her origin, and I mean, makes sense. Echo and Daredevil. I mean, you got. It's kind of cool actually. Get one blind character, one deaf character, and we see how they also have powers and see how they've kind of adapted to their situation or whatnot.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to this, dude. All right, last up, this is another piece of news. I actually like this piece of news here. So Loki, we saw episode 5, episode 6 next week, the season finale.
Yep.
When I hear this news, it reminds me of some shitty decisions they made in the past where She-Hulk, the last episode was like, I think, 30 minutes long. And then Secret Invasion, I think the last episode was like 8 minutes long total. It was somewhere around there, 8 to 12 maybe. I mean, it was short. But Marvel's had a trend where they built up these shows. Then the last episode, dude, you get up to go get a drink, come back, it's over.
Right.
And then nothing happens in it.
Right.
Which, we hated Secret Invasion.
Right. You got to rewind because you thought you missed something.
Yeah.
Come to find out, it was just some shitty timekeeper and it wasn't worth rewinding in the first place.
Absolutely. Now, Loki, the last episode was reportedly 51 minutes, which I think that's the longest of the season or maybe tied with the second, which I think this is great news. I think that 56 minutes, but 51 before the credits. So
correct.
That because and we'll get into this in a little bit. The way this last episode ended, there's a lot that needs to happen in this, like a lot to tie up.
Absolutely.
So I think almost an hour. I'm with it, dude.
Right,
I think this is good, man. How about you?
Based on what happened with the last episode, there's a lot of Lucy. You got some explaining to do. It was a lot of him popping around. I mean, we'll get into it, but so it left a lot to be said in the next episode. So it's cool that it's longer.
Yeah.
But I just hope they do due diligence and make sure that they explain all the stuff that's happening.
Right.
Make it a good show. That's all I want.
Like hop right into it too. Don't give us like 20 minutes of like another intro.
Right.
Like hop right it because that's one thing about, if you remember the first season of Loki, the last episode, I think it was shorter than this, maybe 40 minutes, but they got right into it, dude.
Right.
Like once the episode started, they were at the end of time. And the whole episode was just essentially that dialogue and everything. So that between He Who Remains, Sylvie, Loki. So I hope they kind of go that route where they just drop us right into it.
Right.
So good news there. All right, a buster. Is there a buster this week, Adrian? I kind of want to give it to Marvel, but it's hard because these are just meetings and ideas and rumors, right. So it's not like they're true.
I would say the media in general, because it's not Marvel. Well, it could be, because like you said, I mean, there's like these secret meetings and someone behind the scenes is leaking this stuff.
Yeah, trusted source.
Right, some trusted source. But, the media is just picking up whatever they think is I don't know if you want to call it a hot take, but they're picking up the controversial stuff because that's what attracts viewers.
Yeah.
So Marvel has the absolute right, and they have, like I said, it would be irresponsible of them to not have discussions that could, protect themselves, and that's what they need to be doing. So I don't know if Marvel is the buster by having discussions.
No, I don't think so.
I'm going to call on the media because they're the ones that's taking this stuff and it's like, oh, well, making it seem like this is a fact and this is the direction that Disney or Marvel or DC is going to take. So I would give them the buster this week.
Yeah, I agree. The media as a whole,
right?
The media, because a lot of this stuff, I mean, it's clickbaity, right?
Exactly.
I love, and now when we're big enough, because then I'll start shitting on some of these media sites, because there's a few I want to mention now that I will never click on their articles because they're bullshit.
Right.
They'll tell you Robert Downey Jr. is coming back next week as Iron Man, and then like the thing would be like they're having a meeting in a week, and Robert Downey Jr. said that he loved being Iron Man and would come back, but he's not going. Like it's just they take it and twist it, right?
Exactly.
So or it'll be like a piece of news from like 4 years ago, and because the headline, the way they write it, makes it seem like it's new, and then you click on it, and you're like, really, really,
right.
So the media, newsflash, buddy. It's you. Y'all are the problem. All right. So, the whole it's not me, it's not you, it's me. No, it's not me, it's you. It's definitely you in this one. So, all right. Well, there you have it. Another newsflash, buddy. Now, Adrian, we have your segment, Hidden Gem. And this is, we've been doing Hidden Gem now for a handful of weeks. There's a whole playlist of past Hidden Gems. Last week, you had Hobgoblin for our spooky episode. This is the first one, Adrian, that you have that I honestly know little to nothing about. Seeing the picture, I'm like, I've definitely seen her somewhere. The name, never knew that was her name. Didn't even know who she was. So now I spoiled that it was a female, but they have no idea. So Hidden Gem, what you got this week, Adrian?
All right. The Hidden Gem, but it's a short one, and there's a reason why you haven't heard much about this character. Not portrayed. Actually, she's kind of been sprinkled like all over the place, but not really brought up in animation a lot, not on the big screen, if at all. But this week's Hidden Gem is Jocasta. Okay. Jocasta was created as the bride. So this is kind of like a Frankenstein kind of a movie, right? Yeah. So Ultron is actually Frankenstein monster, because Frankenstein was the doctor. A lot of people get that twisted, right?
That's right.
So this is kind of a Frankenstein monster kind of a thing. So Ultron, we all know who Ultron is.
Yep.
He wanted a bride, so he had so Jocasta was created by Ultron. And what happened was so they kidnapped Hank Pym's wife, Janet Van Dyke.
Okay.
Right? And she was going to be the model for Jocasta.
Okay.
So basically, you got this android body that they created, and they put Janet Van Dyke next to her, and it was supposed to transfer her soul or her, her everything into this metal body for Ultron. And so that got squashed. But what happened was there was some essence of Janet Van Dyke in her.
Yeah.
So when she became, she kind of like the process kind of didn't work. but she was brought back to life, but she still had this essence of Henry Pym's wife in her.
It's almost like a clone in a way.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Basically, what was going to happen was if the transfer would have been successful, Henry Pym's wife would have died.
Got it.
Period.
Yeah.
So Jocasta at some point woke up, realized what was going on, realized what would have happened, and turned against Ultron. I mean, that's the simplified version of it. So even though she was created for Ultron as his bride, she was programmed to love him per se. She also understood that based on who she was modeled after, even down to her voice, that what Ultron was trying to do was wrong, because Ultron's primary goal is to destroy anything that's human.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
Completely.
Some villains were like, we can go back and forth, right? Like Thanos, dude, he's a savage, but part of you, like, all right, maybe I can vibe with a little bit of it. But yeah, Ultron, you're just a dick.
Right. Just annihilate everybody and everything that's human. So, so she went against Ultron. Now, she's also like the most sacrificial character in Marvel from my perspective, because she's died multiple times trying to protect the Avengers. She's had multiple bodies, all this other kind of stuff. But her character also introduced a wave of people. Maybe we'll have, if I say the name, it won't be a surprise later, but I'll say the name. So her character introduced other mechanical kind of characters into the Marvel universe.
Okay.
Namely Machine Man, right? I don't know if you ever heard of Machine Man.
No.
Nope. So she actually was originally interested in Vision, right? But Vision was married to Wanda, then didn't reciprocate her interest. She kind of like, she was like never really inducted into the Avengers. She was kind of like on hold. So she felt some kind of way about that. She was kind of like lost, right? So I'm supposed to be with this Ultron guy, which I can't stand. But they're not fully accepting me as an Avenger either. So she kind of like went out on her own, got hooked up some kind of way with Machine Man. They kind of like became an item. Like I said, she's had multiple bodies, died a few times. I mean, she's an interesting character. The fact that a machine thinks that he needs a bride, to the fact that, he's going to kidnap somebody else. So Henry Pym created Ultron. So basically, the son stole the wife. It's almost like a Frankensteinish Adam and Eve kind of a deal, right? So Henry Pym created Ultron. He kidnaps his father's wife, Janet, right, to make his own wife, kind of a deal. So it's interesting that Ultron thinks that, and why would Ultron, and this is one of the questions I always had, why would Ultron, who wants to wipe out humans, would kidnap a human to model his wife, to make a model of his wife?
Man,
so that's kind of interesting, right?
I guess Janet Van Dyne was fine,
right?
Bro. Maybe in the comic. I mean, now she was played by Michelle Pfeiffer in Ant-Man,
right?
In the live action. So, hey, maybe she was just too fine. You couldn't resist.
I don't know what it was.
So all this was over him. I mean, like a lot of wars and stuff over a girl.
Was what over
creating Ultron creating this Jocasta was all because of his desire for a little bit of android skins,
which is another thing, because again, if your thing is to wipe out humans, why would you have even that desire? To have a companion, So it's a whole interesting thing. But what was interesting about the character to me is that it opened up a whole new type of character in the comic books. So, we got the superheroes, Spider-Man, Superman, blah, blah, blah. We got the supervillains, Dr. Doom, da-da-da. We have the gods, we have the demons, right? And then now we got the early generation of AI. Because once they got on the platform, they started, duplicating themselves, making their own children and doing this all, so it was an interesting character, but the reason that we don't see a lot of her is because, they underrated a lot of characters in the comics. And she just has not come into the forefront. like all these other characters that we're talking about, the hidden gems. So, like I said, she's died off multiple times, multiple bodies, but I think an interesting character nonetheless. I'm not saying, that I don't think this character even should have like a sidebar, like a show, but that doesn't mean that she can't show up somewhere. All the powers that you think a robot is going to have, right? Strength and vulnerability. Her skin is originally it was made out of, they said like a stainless steel or titanium, maybe at one point adamantium. But basically she walked around the equivalent of naked, right? But she has some interesting powers built into her besides the regular android kind of stuff. The strength, the speed. She could fly. She had these internal holographic projectors, so she can make herself look human. Right. So she can make herself look human and walk down the street, and people aren't turning around looking at this shiny, reflective android walking down the street. Heavier than most, of course, because she's pretty much all metal. She could shoot blasts out of her eyes and hands, I believe. So an interesting power set, an interesting character. A lot of stuff around this android, connected with a lot of people. She had, I think Ultron put something in her, all of his creations, that if something ever happened to him, they would have this innate need or want to go and rebuild Ultron. So she had that stuff built into her too. So which actually one time she had to go to the Fantastic Four because her power set started fading. And it actually ended up being a conflict with that programming. And Reed had to, help her get rid of that stuff. Also, she went to Tony Stark. So she's reached out to a lot of well-known characters, but her character itself wasn't strong enough to survive, like in today and become like a Spider-Man, just like a lot of other hidden gems. They just didn't bubble up to notoriety, but definitely somebody that's worth, pulling the sheets back from and, just letting everybody know that she existed.
No, I love it, dude. That's cool. You talk about Ultron a lot when you're going through this hidden gem, and makes me think about Ultron that we saw in Avengers: Age of Ultron, which I think that's a character that they did an okay job, but Ultron could have been a Thanos level threat.
Absolutely.
And you were talking about Doctor Doom earlier being a replacement. I'm like, the rumor, we talked about this a lot here on the show, that after Secret Wars they're going to reboot this whole MCU. I hope they do. I think they should. I'd like to see Ultron portrayed properly.
Right.
Like I actually like James Spader as the voice for Ultron. I just think the story wasn't strong enough. Like the ending, they made him seem like such a big threat for a while, and then they like always neuter him in the end.
Right.
And the end of that movie was kind of a mess with the million freaking Ultron bots, and it was just like the threat became like less about Ultron itself and just this. Now I know he's the one that created this. What was it? He lifted the city up. That part looked cool. I just didn't like the million freaking Ultron bots. I like, and I feel like there was something lacking from that story.
A good storyline. That's what was lacking from it, and that's where you spend all this money on this CGI,
right? And
you just don't have a good storyline.
Yeah.
So visually, you're like, wow, all of this candy and stuff, but intellectually, you just kind of like, ugh,
right?
It just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, like I don't hate that movie. I mean, Age of Ultron, I think it gets a lot of unwarranted shit. I mean, there's some bright spots. They introduced Wanda and Quicksilver in that.
Right.
We kind of got to see them come over to the good side. Vision was created in that, which I thought was really, and a lot of what you're saying about Joe Costa reminds me of the creation of Vision a little bit.
Right.
Where they're pulling from these, and it's an AI that, they were. In the movie, Ultron was trying to use to create a better body for himself, a better form for Ultron. Avengers kind of hijacked it and accidentally created Vision with Jarvis's AI, which I thought that was great. I know it's different than how it is in the comics, but I thought that was one of the things that was changed for the better. But, I mean, talking about this character at Ultron, I could see them portraying this on screen the right way in another phase of Marvel. And, I mean, you'd have to build up Janet Van Dyne and Hank Hank Pym first, right? You'd have to make them very important. And I would like for them to find, because it wouldn't be this older version that we're used to now. It'd be more of a younger one. They could find some badass actress to play both Janet Van Dyne and Joe Costa,
right?
Since it's supposed to be modeled after her,
right?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely can see something like that happening. And you're right, Ultron is a Kang, the High Evolutionary, Doctor Doom level adversary, and they can very easily incorporate him into a box office type movie and stuff. Yeah. But again, are they going to do the portrayals properly?
Yeah.
And and they've done it badly enough times to where that's my initial concern.
Oh, it's a valid question.
With any of that thing, any of that stuff.
It's a very valid question. All right. Well, there you have it. Our hidden gem for the week, Joe Costa. Great job, Adrian, as always, hitting us with the knowledge. And if you like that, check out the playlist of all of our past weeks. One of these days, I'm going to have to ask you, of all your hidden gems, who's been your favorite so far? I don't know, do you have one now? I'm putting you on the spot in front of all of our fans here.
Firestorm.
Okay. That was a good one. That was 2-3 weeks ago, I believe.
Firestorm, actually, I would say him second, but Gladiator first.
Okay. Yep, Gladiator. That was a good one. Yeah, check that out if you have not. So there you have it. Hidden gem, as always. The only place you're going to find the hidden gems of this quality is on Only Comics. That's a fact, right? That's not part of the agree or disagree, but do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And, I also agree or think that they should, look at that hidden gem list.
Yes.
And start, thinking about movies that they can be making out of.
Absolutely.
Because there's definitely some good content in that.
And if you want any consultation, we're here. We're not free, though.
Right.
Now, we don't have like a $200 million budget, so we'll work something out. You get us now before we're big.
There you go.
All right, agree to disagree.
Okay.
Adrian, this segment, TikTok's loving it, by the way.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
So all our TikTokers out there, I don't know, is that what you would call them? TikTokers? Maybe we would copyright that. We'll have to get that.
There you
we
go.
Just made it up here. So to all you TikTokers out there. All right, this is where I rapid fire 10 of my opinions at Adrian, and he simply lets you and I know if he agrees or disagrees. Where the fun happens is then you let us know if you agree or disagree. That's actually the better part of this.
Right.
And we've had some interest. So last week we talked about the Marvels.
Yep.
And the post-credit scene, right? This wasn't agree to disagree, but there's all kinds of fans' feedback on who's going to show up. The leading rumor, I've read this online and saw it in the comments, is that you remember X-Men 3, The Last Stand?
Okay.
Remember that was the first time we saw Beast on screen, and it was Kelsey Grammer playing Beast. You remember that?
Yes.
Big hulky guy, he looked the part perfect, right? So you remember last week that news clip about the post-credit scenes and that the Marvels is going to have someone who was casted perfectly but was in a shitty movie.
Okay.
X3, shitty movie. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, Hank, God, what the hell's Beast's real name? Now I'm mixing him up with Hank Pym. Anyways, Hank McCoy. There we go. Yep. Hank McCoy. See, we're not experts, but it comes to us eventually. But I think Kelsey Grammer was casted perfectly. He looked the part better than it is a Nicholas Hoult, I think, who played him in the First Class series. So that is a very plausible prediction, because if you remember in Ms. Marvel, we found out that she was a mutant at the end, right? So if she's a mutant, it makes sense that maybe another mutant shows up. I mean, so yeah, you can see the one up top. Those are more Hank. That's my man Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
I mean, perfect, right?
Yeah. As opposed to this clown.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
Right.
That's
definitely better.
It looks like bad Halloween makeup. Yeah, that's legit. So I'd be all cool with seeing him come back. So that was just a little sidebar there. But all right, Adrian, you ready? Agree to disagree?
Ready. Let's go.
Let's do it. Number one. Oh boy, the Marvels will be better than Black Adam.
Disagree.
X-Men blue and yellow suits from the 90s are their best suits.
Agree.
Dunkin' over Starbucks.
Dunkin'.
Agree. Venom should be a villain, not a hero or anti-hero ever.
Absolutely agree.
Batman would destroy Iron Man.
Agree.
Echo will be a top-tier MCU show.
Echo will be a top tier. Agree.
All right. Michael Keaton was better as Vulture than he was as Batman.
Agree.
Fat Thor ruined Thor.
Agree.
HBO Titans is better than most MCU shows.
Agree.
And everyone watching this should subscribe to Only Comics right now.
Agree.
There we go. One disagree. Which one was it?
Which one was it?
The Marvels will be better than Black Adam.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. It's just I'm prematurely disappointed.
Yep.
Only and everything is really based around what's her face?
Brie Larson.
Brie Larson.
Yeah.
I'm just not feeling her in that role. Nothing against Brie Larson, but she was just. I just think I don't know why. Maybe maybe it's what's his face brought her over from another movie. But she was. I just think that she was the wrong person to be cast as Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing. Miss Marvel, I think she did an excellent job in Miss Marvel. That was cool. Monica Rambeau, I'm always looking forward to that character playing. Yep. But just Brie Larson, she just looks like she doesn't want to be there.
Right.
When she's on the screen.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's my issue with that portrayal is the smugness feels too real.
Right.
Like and I don't remember Carol Danvers being that much of a sarcastic ass to everyone in the comics.
Right.
Like, was that a thing? I mean, is that new?
I don't remember that either.
We're not experts, so if it was, hey, let us know.
Right. But it's just, even if she was, Brie Larson makes me feel like she would rather be somewhere else instead of being in front of the camera playing that character.
Yes. And it's just that because I've seen her in other movies. Like there's the best movie I've seen her in is it's a sad, really depressing movie, but Room, where I don't know if it's based on a true story. It's based off of stuff that obviously happens where she's captured by this dude and she's basically living in a room underneath his floor, like her and her son. Like, and I think the son is their kid together. Some weird capture slave type shit, like nothing we would review here, but she did a phenomenal job. Great job, but nothing it to the point where I was actually surprised that she would ever be up for a comic movie because her acting prior was so different. It was not comic book stuff. So
it's almost like a Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is great at Maverick and Mission Impossible and Reacher and all those kind of movies.
Yep.
He would not I don't think his character, his persona wouldn't translate or carry over very well into a comic book movie. And I feel that Brie Larson is that type of personality.
Wait, so you're saying no more Tom Cruisery?
Well, there's always Tom Cruisery. It'll be a whole different level of shit show if he ends up in a comic book movie, though. We'd have to come up with something.
You know the rumor, right? The rumor is that he was going now. I don't know if this is still gonna, but one of your all-time favorites, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. We were gonna see a Tom Cruise variant. That's the long-standing rumor.
Wow. I don't even know what to say about that, dude. I mean, I would probably see it anyway, just to see how screwed up it may be.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I could be surprised. I could be surprised. Tom Cruise is very dynamic.
Right.
But he just doesn't look like I think that his portrayal would be almost exactly like Brie Larson's portrayal of Captain Marvel. He would just look like he doesn't want to be there.
It's like she acts too douchey. Like it comes across as too much to where it seems like it's not just a character. It's like you're just annoyed at being there.
Right.
And I'm not, but I am looking forward for the other two. Ms. Marvel and then Monica Rambeau. I think I think it's Tiana Paris, I believe is the actress' name. She's phenomenal. I really the little bit we saw from her in WandaVision was one of the highlights of that show. I think she added a lot in that kind of sideline role.
She's pretty dynamic too. I think she's in I think it's an Amazon. They clone Tyrone or something.
Okay.
She's pretty good in that too.
Yeah.
So interesting character.
Yeah. Oh, she's legit. Well, there you have it. Agree or disagree? We are 1 out of 10 this week. What do y'all say? Do you agree or do y'all disagree? Now, notice I didn't get offended when you didn't agree, and you might be a little offended at me saying the Marvels will be, because we know that. And now that I had to test you, Adrian, to see if this love for Black, because you know what people say. Those people,
right?
They say that you and I sometimes say things just to be edgy. So I have to test you for them, not for me. I'm testing you to make sure that your love for Black Adam is not just to be edgy, that you really do like that movie more than everyone else out there.
Now, to be fair,
yes,
the Marvels aren't out yet.
Right.
I have not seen it.
True.
So it could be.
It could be, but you don't agree with my prediction.
I do not agree with your prediction.
Right. Which is fair. So it's always a test with this Black, because I want to show them that you ain't bullshit. And I don't place it where you do, but I like Black Adam a lot more than most of these folks.
I put it this way: I like Black Adam more than what I've seen from Captain Marvel thus far. I'll put it that way.
Ooh, this will be for you. This wasn't on my list, but Black Adam is a better movie than Captain Marvel. Do y'all agree? I agree. I know you agree.
Oh, absolutely. All
right. Last segment of the day, of the week, Adrian, is our deep dive into Loki, Season 2, Episode 5. I'm bad because I rate these episodes, and I don't remember what I rated them last week. I know they kept going up and going up. Right. This one, I'd say this one's like an 8.5.
Okay.
I'd say that. Well, what about you?
I'll say like an 8.
An 8? Okay. Yeah. So still pretty high. Now, and also, anyone who's been watching this knows that you don't give out scores much. Like you're like, no, 5, 2. Like it takes a lot to get Adrian to get into those upper. Me, sometimes I'm too much of a fanboy. I'm like, yeah, it's 10, and then next thing I'm like, nah, you know what? No, but I'm upper 8s. This one, I think was outside of. I mean, last week was great. I keep saying this. I think every episode I watched is now my favorite episode of this season, which is how it should be, right?
Unlike Secret Invasion,
yes, where my favorite episode was the first, and then everything went downhill from there.
Exactly.
And then my favorite episode was when it ended. That was just my favorite part.
Right. Just get it over with.
Yep. So they each keep getting a little bit better. Last week we saw that big cliffhanger, right, where the temporal loom pretty much explodes. Everything's all torn apart. My man Victor Timely turns into spaghetti. You know what it looked like? You played with Play-Doh back in the day, Adrian?
Yes.
You remember the little thing where you push it through and the spaghetti comes out?
Yep.
That was always my favorite thing, right? You just sit there and do that over and over again. Something about the smell of fresh Play-Doh. Like, it's just, you got fresh cut grass and fresh Play-Doh. Which one smells better?
I'm going to go with the grass.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the grass.
Yeah, I think the grass has a slight edge, but, man, freshly opened Play-Doh is a special scent, though.
Yeah, you know what's also a special scent?
What's that?
When you pop open that box of candy corn.
No, I'd rather eat Play-Doh than eat a handful. I'd rather eat the little ones, the whole pack of Play-Doh.
Wow.
The whole little tub of Play-Doh. Yeah. Than eat a handful of this shit right here. Wow. So, all right. Anyway, he all kind of turned into spaghetti Play-Doh last week, right? And we see more of that this week. But it starts off. Loki, and just so y'all know, if you've been on our deep dives, we ain't gonna go. If we got like ADHD here, if something hits me, we may jump to the end, to the beginning. Right. So, if you've not seen it, spoiler alert, dude. But we're kind of past those. Like, I mean, dude, it's Monday. Like, this goes out on Monday. If you've not seen last week's Loki, then why are you even watching our show? Go watch that first.
Right. By the way, that Play-Doh effect is pretty neat, though.
Yeah, it is.
I like that.
Hell yeah. There you go. Good CGI, right?
Right.
Shit,
something different for once.
And that's true. Something different.
Right.
And it gives you a similar effect or feeling to the whole Thanos snapping, going into dust in a way. Not as impactful, but it's similar. You're like, what the hell's happening here?
However, they did it so much in this last episode, they kind of might want to start ratcheting it back a little bit. It just,
Yeah, it was happening
enough's
all over
enough.
the place.
Right.
Yep. So Loki he's at the TVA by himself, right? Everyone's kind of wiped out, and he starts time slipping again.
Yep.
Right, and then he ends up. I think he,
which is also another amazing effect.
Right,
that time slip and stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, I cringe sometimes. It's like, damn, that looks painful.
It does, yeah. the funny part was when Obi was was telling see how we skip around Loki that he can control it.
Right.
And then he starts trying to do it himself. Like that was that. See, that's like good humor.
Right.
Right. Like it's not forced.
Yeah.
It's not just a stupid little one-liner every 14 seconds, Brie Larson, Captain Marvel.
Right.
It's actually just part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So we see him, he's time slipping again. And, refresh my memory, who does he go to see first? It's not,
You mean who does he time slip to first?
Yeah, yep, of all of his little past friends.
Oh,
is it Obi's character?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
And again, we're not experts here, so who the hell knows? But he basically he ends up going to pretty much every person who worked at the TVA.
Right.
I want to say maybe it was freaking Obi. Well, Obi was a scientist, kind of a failing scientist.
He was a failing scientist that wanted to be a book writer.
Yeah, he wanted to be a book writer.
Right. He wanted to write.
He's writing science fiction.
But his science job is his side hustle so that he can write books.
Right.
So that was funny.
Yep. And I like how he's kind of Loki's moving around to find each of these individuals because his goal is to kind of put this team back together. He wants to fix this, right? And maybe it's Mobius where he goes first. Mobius is on the jet ski.
Right. That was a crazy scene.
Do we finally get to see Mobius? Because all this jet ski talk, right? Even when he was in the TVA, he even had like brochures of jet skis and shit. So like that's like cool fan service. We got to see Mobius on the jet ski, even though he wasn't in the water. He was just in the shop selling.
Right.
So that was cool. And he shows up and he has no idea who Loki is. And he's got kids. That was a funny scene too with the kids.
Apparently unparented.
Yes, seriously.
Kids too. Yep. Dude lighting fires, running away from his dad, sending the other kid after him. That's some messed up family right there.
Yeah, so they should let Loki parent the kids for a minute. I mean, he can go old school Loki on them.
That's it.
His name's Don. He's living. He's out in Cleveland in present day. Like you said, single father, 2 kids, and he thinks Loki's trying to buy like a jet ski or something.
Right.
And then he also reconnects with our boy Ouroboros or Obi, right? We talked about that. And what's funny is, did you notice that Obi's lab where he was working looks a lot like the lab he had at the TVA?
Well,
Back design of it.
Well, that plays into the character because you are what you are regardless of where you are.
Right.
You bring your environment to you. You don't step into another environment. So wherever he was going to be was going to look the same pretty much.
Yes. Which is, and that's the stuff I like talking about more in these deep dives versus like what happened when. Because that's been a theme throughout this show from day one. So this is what I like about this show a lot is, yes, it ties into the MCU. Yes, it moves the story along. But it also has a lot of substance and it has a lot of kind of life of its own.
Right. Sometimes
with these movies and shows like Ant-Man Quantumanium, it's like it's just there to just be another chapter and that's it.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't move the story along a lot. And then sometimes it adds to the overall story, but it doesn't have much substance on its own.
Right.
And this, I think, it checks all those boxes for me. Because that whole... the whole idea of the first season, the multiple Lokis, and that Lokis are just going to be Loki. Like whatever if you remember, and you even hear this at some point in this episode, I think when Loki gathers his whole crew, but then they start turning to Play-Doh spaghetti again.
Right.
And you hear all these quotes from different episodes in the past, and there's one where Sylvie says that we're Lokis, we're just meant to lose. Right, and which we've always seen throughout the MCU. Loki tries to attack the Avengers, loses. Loki tries to fuck with Thor, loses. He tries to, go up against Thanos, loses, ultimately killed, right? So Loki's always going to screw it up.
Right.
Right, and to your point about Obi, it's like, take Obi, or whatever his name was, wherever you put him in this multiverse, he's going to end up being himself.
Right.
And doing the same shit. Right, just in a different universe.
And even pretty much all of them, because Mobius, even though he was a jet ski salesman in Cleveland, when he was Mobius, he was, the jet ski pamphlets. His character was pretty much still the same.
Yeah.
X5, M5, whatever the other chick was.
Yep.
She was nurturing when Loki time slipped to her. She was like helping out a child, so she's always helping somebody. Right. So you bring wherever you are, you bring your environment with you.
Yes.
And your environment could be just your personality.
Right.
So,
and that's been the theme throughout this show is Loki just always going to be Loki, or can he change? Right.
I'm seeing some change.
I am, but we'll see with next week. Right. So like part of me thinks like, is it going to come full circle? And he's just going to be like, I have a prediction at the end. I'll save it for the end.
Okay.
But I do like that aspect, how, yes, they all kind of did, they go back to their actual life on the timeline. Now, yes, they're very different than what they were doing for the TVA, but a lot of their personality traits, the things they liked, so on and so forth, remained.
Right.
Like the jet ski thing, like you mentioned, B-15. Yes, she's, or even Mobius. Like Mobius, he couldn't control his kids, right? And he's always just like, chasing after them. They're in control.
Right.
It's kind of like when he in the first season, when he found Loki and he's supposed to be in charge of like bringing Loki into the TVA, charging him all this shit, and he lost control. Like it's kind of like the kids were mischievous, right?
Right.
And so is Loki.
Right.
And you see him have a very hard time managing either one of them.
But he always seems to be in a position where he's managing these type of people, whether it's a child or Loki, they're the same type of person.
Yeah, absolutely. The other guy, I forget his name, but he was like a criminal. That was funny. The one who was trying to escape Alcatraz.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like the guy who normally works at the desk and shit. And he's all like, "Can I use his temp pad? Like, should I go anywhere? Like a bank vault?" Like that was funny. That was a cool little change. And then Sylvie's just being Sylvie. I mean, she's just wants to kill everyone.
Exactly.
Which, you can't knock her, So, yeah, we see all that. And then, he eventually brings them all back together.
Right.
And what I liked about Obi's character is that it was cool because he loves science fiction so much that Loki's story didn't seem crazy to him.
Right. Exactly. And he's explaining to him all of these things and his possibilities, like but you can do it. You can control it. Yeah. And he's the one that pointed out that it's not. He said because you can pop around to not only in time but in space. Right. And it's about the people. The people are your anchors. And then as a result of that, then you should follow this thing in order to get everybody together, their frequencies. So that was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool because we saw this time slipping throughout throughout this whole season. And it was random, but I don't know that it was random. Right. And that's what Obi was getting at.
Right. Because he didn't just pop into like the Ice Age, about to get eaten up by a, Tyrannosaurus Rex or some dumb shit, or the bottom of the ocean. He always popped up where there was somebody that one of his friends, as he's called them. Yeah. And which Sylvia brought out. Why do you really want to do this? Why do you really want to do this? Right. Why do you really? I don't want to be alone.
Yep. It goes back to Loki just being selfish.
Exactly.
Which I like because you're right. We've seen a lot of growth and change from Loki, but he's still Loki.
Yeah, but the reason that he wanted to do this is selfish, but it's also charming. Yeah. Because he's saying that I want to be with my friends. Right. As opposed to I want to go and, kill this race or destroy this or blah 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 blah. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely like that change. And then to speak more to the time slipping thing. So in the past, and Obi's point was you always time slipped right where you needed to be. Right. And then we learned that through that flashback where Loki prunes himself. Perfect example of it. Right. At the time, we're like, why the hell is he time slipping to the future? And then we saw, him get pruned. And then once we learned that it was Loki, it's like, shit, he's supposed to be there. Because if he didn't prune Loki at that time, everything would have blown up then. Right. So he's always right where he needs to be. He time slipped to where, who was it? Or back into the past to the TVA where he could see all the Kang shit, Right. Like he's always been. So that was kind of my man Obi's point. And I do like that he's like, even though this Obi doesn't know the shit that the other Obi did, he's coaching, and that's true to his personality. He's coaching Loki on what to do,
and that also reinforces the point that Obi was making about you are time slipping to where you need to be, because he time slipped to Obi so that Obi can explain to him that, one, this makes this, there's a pattern to this, whether you see it or not, and two, you by your being here with me and my telling you that you can control this will give you the what do you call it, the guts, the whatever, to control it, which he ultimately does.
Yeah. Yep. At the end, he gives Obi the TVA guidebook, and then through that, it's funny too, because it's cool about these time travel shows is you can move through a lot. Like 19 months goes by.
Right.
He loses his marriage, falls apart, loses his job, but he built the first time machine. He built the temp pad. Right. Through using the TVA handbook. So that's when they kind of start bouncing around. And to your point, they find B-15. They find Sylvie. But then Sylvie's like, basically, I'm good, dude. Like, they have that conversation. And I think Sylvie's gotten a lot of shine in this season.
Absolutely.
I think she's always been a good character. But the first season she showed up kind of a few episodes in, I believe, and a lot of it was us trying to figure out who she was. So we didn't really get to see her really shine like she has in this season.
Right. Well, I think it's almost like a Jonathan Majors thing. Somebody comes on the scene and you don't know how they can move the crowd until you actually see them move the crowd, and then you're like, well, damn, so let's throw this at them, or let's put them in this position, or let's put them in that situation. And then they just continue to just nail it. And, the more you do that, the more you grow as that character, and the more you get put into all these other different situations. So
yeah, absolutely. I also read it this past weekend that this whole time slipping power is based off of a Loki power in the comics. There's something that is a power, I guess he got, I say more recently, like within the past 10 years, that is something similar to this. And he's always been the god of mischief, right? But there's a storyline where he becomes the god of stories. I don't know what it's about. I've not read it yet. I made a note to check it in Marvel Unlimited. By the way, I'm always plugging shit for them. They should send me something. Marvel Unlimited, by the way, is their digital comic book library. Phenomenal. DC Universe is better, but same deal. You can read them on any type of electronic. So a lot of times I read my shit there. But I made a note to check the story out. But I like when they we've talked about this here. I don't think everything needs to be 100% comic accurate.
Sure.
But I like when they pull certain stuff and make it work. Like because you've said this plenty of times. There's so many stories in the comics to pull from. Right. There's so much that. And I do think because if we stop doing that, they just become regular movies. Right? Like if we're not pulling from the comics, what the hell's the point of a comic book movie? It's just a regular movie.
Right.
So I like that they pull some stuff. So I do want to check that out. But eventually he learns how to use this power, right? But Sylvie, he tries to recruit Sylvie. They have this conversation, which you talked about earlier, where they basically just confirm that Lokis are all selfish. And Loki doesn't necessarily, because she digs it out of him, because he's trying to say he wants to save the TVA and all this shit, which we're like, I don't know, you're still Loki, dude. Right. So to your point, his goal is not about annihilating everyone anymore, but it's still about himself. He's like, I found some friends. This life's actually pretty cool. Right. Even though they probably should be back living their actual lives, I want them back in the TVA with me because I'm selfish. Right. So we uncover that. Loki leaves because Sylvie's not rolling with him. And when he's back at, he's back with his little crew, he's kind of like, he's done. He's beaten up. He's like, this ain't going to work. Everything's, they need Sylvie in his mind. Right. And then what happens to Sylvie's little, she's at the record store. That was a pretty cool scene.
I found that interesting. I mean, Sylvie is Loki. She has all his powers, but she settles as a McDonald's crew member doing the most basic human stuff. Even going into a record shop and, listening to a record. That's cool. Yeah. That's very grounding. And it makes for a very good storyline.
Absolutely. Because you think people always want what they can't have, right?
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't mind a full set of hair, dude. But you know what? It's gone. It is what it is.
Dude, I'm glad mine.
I don't care. Hey, there's people that would love to have our beards, right?
Hey.
Tall people wish they were shorter. Shorter people wish they were taller, bigger, the whole deal. I got blonde hair, wish it was black. It's curly, it's straight. Everyone wants what they can't have, right? Yep. So it's like, Loki.
It's the whole Eve thing. Yeah. I'm going to every tree in the garden, every tree. Yep. Every tree you can have that one, except that one. Yep. Except that one. And what happened? Yep. They got tricked into focusing on what they didn't have.
Fucking ruined
and here we go.
Everyone. You ruined it for all of us. Unbelievable. You just couldn't think about it a little more, Seriously. But
is Adam and Eve in the MCU?
Adam Warlock is. Right. There you go. Adam Warlock's in the MCU. But I mean, Sylvie, Loki, they're gods, demigods, right?
Right.
So it's like they're living as gods, which the average person probably, it's partly what attracts a lot of people to these stories is, what if I had powers like that, right? Right. What if claws came out of my hands and I could just cut someone's head off when they cut me off in traffic instead of yell and scream at them?
Well, first of all, there's a reason why we don't have those powers. Yeah. I mean, there would probably be nobody on the earth.
We'd act like the boys. That's
exactly.
That is something, and we will, Gen V, and we have all the stuff to review, but I'm going to get caught up maybe by next week.
Yeah,
well, okay. We have next week's the end of Loki. Maybe the following week we'll talk about that show.
Maybe actually after Thanksgiving, because we got a lot. I mean, we got 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, That's so that should be something. So then after that, that'll be a nice reboot time.
Oh yeah,
right? To jump off into Gen V. But
there we go.
I wanted to say something about the God thing, right? Yeah. So remember the last episode where Sylvie was like something about people wanted to believe in God or whatever, and Loki said, "We are gods," and walked off. That was cool.
That was a good line.
Yeah,
that was one of those, like, I don't know about you, but I knew it was coming. Like that's the obvious response,
right?
But it made sense,
right?
Like sometimes they do shit like that, and it's just corny, right? But that I thought that was great.
Yeah, that was a cool scene.
But it makes, when you think about it, to your point, it's a good story. So Sylvie, who's been a god her whole life, she now has a chance to live, and that's what her goal is. Because you also got to remember, you bring this up a lot, dude. Loki, I know, Tom Hiddleston is probably 45, 50 years old, maybe. Yep. Well, the character Loki is like thousands of years old,
right?
So is Sylvie. It's not like, he's not hitting 40 for the first time and like his back's hit, like they've been for thousands of years.
Right.
So they're going, I've lived this God life for all these years, like thousands, centuries upon centuries. Now I just want to live out a regular life.
Right.
I that makes sense to me.
And that would probably be a phase to them. They'll do that for a couple of 100 years or a decade or whatever, and then they'll reinvent themselves as something else and then move on. Make another choice. Yeah. I think that'd be cool, dude.
I mean, they pick McDonald's because obviously for the marketing dollars, but that's besides the point.
Sure.
But actually, I don't hate that inclusion. I think it's cool.
Nah. So I have all of these options available to me. I'm gonna pick the least common denominator. Yeah. And just ride this life. And she looks like she's enjoying it too.
Absolutely.
Which is real cool.
I mean, think about it. She's been on the run for years because they plucked her from the timeline. Right. She's going from dimensions to timelines and all this other shit. And now it's just like, show up to work. She's probably working 25, 30 hours a week. She's working at McDonald's in the 90s.
Right.
She goes home or she goes to this record store, throws on some music that she's never heard in her life, and just gets the vibe out and then wake up the next day, go back to work.
Exactly.
It's like that whole, you think about that analogy of like, when I retire, I want to go live on an island and go fishing every day. And then you think you have to work hard and have all this money. And then you have like a guy who's like a poor fisherman who does that.
Exactly.
And he's loving his life. Right. But y'all want the same thing. It's just different ways to get there.
Yep.
So yeah, it makes sense, dude. But then, like everything else in this episode, Adrian, what happens? She's in the record store and everything. That was a very cool visual.
Yeah.
That store and the record spinning. And then, so finally she's like, and then she has her own temp pad still.
Right.
She's got that just in case.
Just in case. I like that too. It's like, I'm always prepared. Right. I know I'm living this life. It's very subdued. There's probably not a lot that's going to happen, but just in case.
Just in case, dude. So she moves back into, or she uses the temp pad. She finds Loki and the rest of the crew, and then they start talking about this plan pretty much, right? And again, interject if I'm missing anything because try to consume all this shit, but it's eventually it all kind of overlaps. So I don't know what movie that was in. But basically, they start talking about a plan of how they're going to fix it, and everyone there starts turning into spaghetti.
Right. Well, first thing that happens is the temporal pad disappears, and
That's
everybody
right.
think that the
kid stole it.
The kid stole it, and he was like, "Yeah, that would be cool, but I still didn't do it."
Yes.
And then everybody starts going away.
You know, I'm glad you pointed that out, because it reminds me that all along, I don't know if you picked up on this throughout the episode, things were disappearing.
Right.
Like when she was in the record store, I forget what it was, but like a glass starts, like all these little that
Sure.
no one really points out.
Mm-hmm.
But even where Loki's at, everything's like, so it's like all these timelines, I guess, are still slowly like disintegrating.
Right. But that was a cool scene though. That was again, it was funny but not forced.
Right. Yeah, it made sense. It fit the story. You know, it fit the storyline. So, the temp pad goes, and that's when everything starts to disappear, and then everyone turns into spaghetti again, and Loki's just the only one this is not happening to, right? So he, and this is where I believe where he learns how to focus the time slipping, because he goes right back to that time.
Right.
And I think he even says something about, like, it's not about where, when, why, it's about who.
Right.
I can rewrite the story. And which is why I guess the rumor out there and what I've read was the whole Loki God of Stories is where they're going. You know, and a lot, you know, I like that whole what makes a Loki tick, you know, which then they both confirm that they're both selfish. This episode, again, I think it was great. Where is it going? So at the last scene, we see him use his time slipping again, right? And then he shows back up to the TVA before everything happens.
Correct.
Now, we just see him and Obi in this scene, but I would assume this is like right before they go to try to fix the temporal loom, maybe.
Correct.
But now he's got control. But him going back, you know, we've not seen for a while is Renslayer.
Right.
We don't know where she's up to.
Right.
Is Miss Minute still locked out and I mean, there's definitely a lot of loose ends in this last episode.
Sure.
I'm going to make a prediction here. Okay. I think that Loki, next episode, not gonna be. I was wrong in the past. And usually I'm not. I mean, if I'm bad in I probably had one strike, maybe a whole season.
And if you are, you are.
If I am, I am. But you know, it's just what we do here. We predict things, and we're usually always normally right. But anyway, I'm predicting that Loki is going to basically take the seat of He Who Remains. Next episode. It's going to end that way. I feel like it ends with Loki on the throne. I'm going to make even wild prediction here. I believe that we'll see Loki in his iconic green horns and that whole costume at the end of the episode.
That would be hot. That could work. That also wraps up and takes out the Kang character moving forward in the MCU.
Right.
Because Loki is a consistent character in the MCU, period. Kang, he comes out as an antagonist, you know, periodically. So that would take care of that. That would be a cool visual because I remember a comic book front pager or two pager where Loki is sitting in his iconic green and yellow on kind of a throne, you know, he's kind of spread out like this. I'm seeing that.
Big horns.
With the big horns.
I know you're talking about.
I'm feeling that. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So that's my prediction, and I think I think Loki is going to remain selfish. I don't think he'll go back full villain.
Right.
But I think he's going to go back. And I actually, maybe this is more of a hope, too. I hope he does. I like this change and the redemption, but I also think that having him as a antagonist, you know, or maybe one that, like a Namor or a Dr. Doom who can flip and flop when, when it fits his agenda, I think that's great. So I'm pulling for that, dude.
That would work. The more I'm thinking about that would work because what'll probably happen is, you know, he'll throne himself, right? Bring back Renslayer because she's overall is going to keep everything running mechanically.
Yep.
So, and then that'll also give him the leeway to then later on go and do more Loki stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that.
Maybe a wild prediction. again, I've been wrong like maybe once on the show, possibly. I mean, I was counting. It's probably like at least maybe only once. Right. But we'll see. Maybe I'll be right here. Maybe I'll be wrong. But that's the prediction. Loki sitting on the throne at the end of time when next episode ends. But all in all, dude, I've enjoyed this ride so far.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to the next episode, and I don't remember feeling that way for a long time with something with Marvel, so that's refreshing.
Right. Yep. I agree.
So there's our anything else you want to add on Loki?
No, it's just been a interesting show. I like how they purposefully, like when Loki had to prune himself, because we were at the show before. It was like, how did he take one of those things with him and prune himself, like at the elevator?
Yeah.
Like what happened? So I like how there's mystery involved. It makes you think, and then they explain it in full the next episode.
Right.
So I like that whole detail about it. I like the comedy outlet. It's not forced. It just seems natural.
Yep.
So it's a good meaty show. And I like the direction that they take in this Loki character. But I do agree with you. He's ultimately going to revert back to some degree. But I also think that, moving forward, whatever he does, he'll think about his friends,
Yeah.
And that'll play to some degree in his decisions to do whatever it is that he's going to do.
I'm going to show you something, Adrian. So this poster here, right? What do you see right here? That's classic Loki, right?
Yep.
And there's Sylvie. We've seen her. We've seen Loki dressed like this. We've seen Mobius, whoever that is. Sure, we've seen them. Here's some more Loki. We've seen him. You got another version here. And you don't really see the face. I feel like maybe it's just the artist having fun, whoever made this poster, or maybe they're trying to tell us something.
Right.
I don't know, but that's my.
I'm sure they're trying to. I'm sure they're trying to tell us something.
It's got to be right. There's something to it. So, well, there you have. If you like our deep dive, check out the rest of our channel, and we've deep dived into a ton of things. We've deep dived into Black Adam before, Adrian.
Oh yeah.
So if you feel like Adrian feels, you'll love that deep dive, and if you don't, I think you'll still love it.
Sure.
I think of course. And you talked about this, and we'll wrap with this. They're a little bit of a lull season right now in comic movies, and shaping up to I part of it's probably because I guess we better get used to the lull because of the strike. Who knows when they're actually going to start filming again? I know they can write again now, but just to kind of look to the future, we got Echo coming up in January. So you said you're going on a big Netflix binge of Hell's Kitchen.
Yep.
Which I'm probably gonna do the same. I want to finish those. You know what happened, dude? Honestly, I watched the first season of Daredevil, and I'm watching them in order. So then I threw on Jessica Jones, which I really liked. But I was watching it like during the day, and my kids were up. And they get into some superhero nasties in that show, like keep it a little, I don't know if we're not TVMA here, but
right.
I mean, but they get into some, and I was like, whoa, shit, I had to turn that off. I don't want my 7-year-old walking in on that, so I had to, but I need to watch that maybe after hours. But yeah, there's a little bit. I mean, we got the Marvels coming out. Is that next week, by the way? We should probably know that,
Right.
So again, we're not experts, so. I'll tell you right now, good old, you put it in the Google machine, and this is what happens. November 10th. So next week.
That's Thursday or Friday?
Oh, shit. Looks like we're going to be reviewing something, dude.
Right.
All right. Well, there you have it. So the Marvels. So we'll see if my prediction was right about the Marvels. But after that, we're kind of pretty much dead in the water until January.
I'm cool with that. I break out the Hallmark.
Absolutely.
Get into my Christmas movies.
Yes.
I got the whole Hell's Kitchen thing to do, so no, I'm pretty excited about it. This is going to be an interesting year for a lot of reasons, but I'm definitely deep diving into Christmas this year.
There's some great Christmas movies I could recommend for you. Iron Man 3, Batman Returns, if you will.
Right, right.
So if you really want to get it, I mean, if not, there's things like Elf and Home Alone, but stop after the second one. Don't get into anyone that doesn't have Macaulay Culkin in it.
Dude, I was amazed. I was looking around for something, and I saw Home Alone.
Yeah.
And there's a Home Alone 4 that's not with Macaulay Culkin. I'm like, how is that even possible, dude? Who would even do that?
Yep.
I mean, are you that desperate?
I saw one of them. I don't know if it was the third or the fourth, but it was one without him, and it was just weird and stupid and unnecessary.
Right.
Yeah. Make another movie, call it something else, and do the same thing.
Exactly.
But anyways, so there you have it. Another week here on Only Comics. This is where, Adrian, we discuss comics and only comics, and then sometimes some other stuff, a little bit every once in a while. But what you can guarantee if you watch the show, we're going to shoot you straight. We're going to have fun. We're going to be inaccurate because we don't know everything, and that's okay. But it will be a fun ride because we get together once a week, and you know, as I put it, it's like we take a trip down. It's like we have our own tent pad almost. Adrian. We get in this room, we turn on the tent pad, and we just go. We bounce around from multiverse to universe. We travel through time and space.
That's right.
Every single week. And we're at war pretty much with some of y'all out there, some of the studios, some of their stupid opinions. But we also plug them enough too, so they should throw us some money back at some point. But anyway,
or at least some updated props or something.
Something, dude. Yeah, give us a poster or something. Right. Jesus, I'm sure we're driving traffic back to y'all, right? But anyways, all jokes aside, it's been fun. Another week, Adrian.
Yep.
Appreciate you joining me. Appreciate you guys tuning in, checking us out. And as always, we'll be back at you next week right here on Only Comics.